we're going to go ahead and get started. Tonight's class is on heart health, the cardiovascular system. And this is an important subject to me because, well, they say cancer has overtaken heart disease as the #1 killer in America, but the bottom line is heart disease is still at least one of the top 2 killers in America. And it is the single most unnecessary and preventable thing. There's different reasons people get cancer and there's different things going on. That's a lot more complicated. When it comes to heart health, it's really not very complicated. And nobody should be dying of heart attacks. And unfortunately, oftentimes the first symptom of a heart problem is a heart attack. And over 50% of all people who have a heart attack is death. So this is something where you better be practicing some prevention and understand how the heart works and how the cardiovascular system works, because if you have an episode, you might not make it through it. So if there's any time to practice prevention, it's definitely with your heart. So I'm going to talk about blood pressure. I'm going to talk about cholesterol. And the last page, and share this with your friends or whoever, but I made a quick list of 10 questions to ask your doctor about your heart, because we have to ask questions. I think the days are gone of just blindly trusting in the medications we've been giving. We need to ask what the doctor knows. What does the doctor know about what's going on with my heart? Why is my blood pressure high? Because there's always a reason you have high blood pressure. The reason you have high blood pressure isn't because you're deficient in a drug. So ask and find out why you have high blood pressure. Ask questions. So there's a list of 10 questions here you can ask related to blood pressure and especially cholesterol, because as we talk about cholesterol, we'll see how cholesterol really isn't an indicator for heart problems. And cholesterol medications is one of the the most unnecessary, unneeded things that we take when it comes to heart health. But what you need for a healthy heart is honestly pretty simple. And the main reason that we have, just talking about high blood pressure, for example, again, there's always a reason why we have these things. So the main reason we have high blood pressure, #1 is dehydration. You can kind of couple along with that mineral deficiencies. Okay, and then you have sugar and insulin problems. People that are diabetic. Everybody who's diabetic has high blood pressure because they have major sugar and insulin problems. And when that sugar and that insulin is in the bloodstream for long periods of time, it weakens and damages the veins and arteries and causes them to kind of erode. Okay, so if you eat well and you're well hydrated and you put minerals in your body, I went nuts talking about minerals on Tuesday night if you were here, but it's a big deal. And again, I went to a conference. For those of you who didn't hear me mention, I went to a conference last week with Dr. Wallach, and he pretty much attributes to all illness, for the most part, I don't know how many exceptions there are in his book, but he pretty much attributes all illnesses to mineral deficiencies and linked scientifically 900 different diseases to mineral deficiencies. And he's autopsied 3,000 humans and 450 species of animals to prove it. Really sharp guy. Hardcore guy, 72 years old, and he's on a mission to bring down the FDA. I love it.
What's his name?
Wallach, Wallach.
Has to bring down the FDA, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he published some scientific articles showing mineral deficiencies and how they cured common diseases like cystic fibrosis and myocardial infractions that people get from poor heart health and things like that. And he said, hey, this is the mineral that takes care of that. He proved it. People who were living had these issues, gave them the mineral, completely reversed it, wrote about it in medical journals, completely shunned and ignored by the medical community. So he got on fire. And so he's like on a mission. He gives 300 free speeches a year all around the country. Wow. I mean, he wrote the book Dead Doctors Don't Lie, if you've heard of that. Some people have heard of that book.
It's called what?
Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Yeah, but he's a pretty cool guy. I'm going to see about getting on board with some of his product, because he's designed products based on what he discovered and what deficiencies cause illnesses, and he's developed protocols to overcome pretty much all illnesses using the products he created. And again, it's mineral foundation. So we'll talk a little bit about at the end, but you know, if you do some really simple things, you can protect from ever having a heart attack. It just shouldn't happen. Okay, it just shouldn't happen. And these three things are the main things to control. So yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but if you have a heart condition and you've had a heart attack in the past, can you do these things and fix what's the damage that's been done?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you've had a bypass, for example, okay, what's a bypass? They take a leg out of your vein, they put it in your heart, okay? That's almost always temporary. Usually those fail within 2 to 5 years because, you know, you're cutting and pasting. You know what I mean? So if you've had something major like that done, you know, you really probably got to be extra careful. But if you haven't had any major surgery done or anything like that, you just got some blockages in your arteries, you notice, you know, you have a rapid heartbeat, things like that, all those things can be absolutely corrected. No problem at all. But if you've already had some major patchwork done in there, you know, again, that can be questionable.
What about the stents? A lot of people get stents.
Well, same thing, but that doesn't stop the disease process.
Right.
You know, that doesn't address the cause of what caused that blockage. It's a temporary opening. That's all it is. You haven't stopped the disease process. And same thing when you do like a bypass, when you take that vein, you know, think about it. Like if you look at the number one thing here, I talked about high blood pressure, it's scar tissue fibrin buildup. And so you think about taking a vein out of your leg and putting it in your heart. Well, they have to actually cut and slice and dice that vein to the right size to fit perfectly in your heart. Well, your body has to heal that, right? So think of all the scar tissue and everything that's built up around your heart and around that area, because your body's got to heal that. You know, that's a major, you know, surgery being done there. So that builds up scar tissue, and that's why those usually fail, bless you, within 2 to 5 years. And then people have to go get another bypass. If you've ever known anybody who's had multiple bypass surgeries, you know, that happens. So yeah, we have to protect ourselves. So so what happens is, and let me just talk a little bit about, you know, why people have high blood pressure. The sugar and insulin issue, okay? Again, just too much sugar, too much insulin in the bloodstream. Things that cause the blood to get thick and the blood to stagnate. In Chinese medicine, they're big on the blood. If you've ever been to a Chinese medical doctor, the first thing he'll do is he'll check your pulse. And when he checks your pulse, he'll go, when you were 5 years old, you had a traumatic event, and I mean, he'll tell you like your whole life story just reading your pulse. It's
Wow.
amazing if you go to a well-trained Chinese medical doctor, because to them the blood is everything, and the cardiovascular system is everything. So they're real big on making sure you don't have stagnant blood, thick blood. So eating a lot of sugar, becoming insulin resistant can cause that thick blood. Eating way too much meat will cause thick blood. You know, I never sit up here and preach anybody to eat a certain way, but it is a fact that we eat too much meat. So what I recommend people do is, you know, cut back at the minimum, just cut back to what fits in the size of the palm of your hand, no more than 1 meal a day. Ideally, you know, every other day, even just twice a week for meat. That's how humans have eaten meat all throughout history. They've never eaten it 3 meals a day like we do here in America. That thickens the blood. Again, it's just a lot for the body to have to process at one time, and it thickens and stagnates the blood. So what happens when we do these things, and then the other thing that I talked about, or, you know, one of the main 3 things is the dehydration mineral issue. So when the body's dehydrated, everything constricts to conserve water. Okay, that's all. For the most part, that's what asthma is. The lungs constricting to conserve water, like a cactus, just, you know, trying to hold on to all the water it can. So the blood vessels will constrict as well. So you got to properly hydrate, and the way to properly hydrate the body is you have to have proper minerals. Okay, so all of those things cause the blood vessels to either constrict or the blood to get thick. Bottom line is, it makes the heart have to work extra hard. So that's the key here. Okay, that's the only reason people get heart disease, is because the heart is having to work too hard. And when the heart has to work too hard, it stretches out those blood vessels that are surrounding the heart. And as it stretches out and puts pressure on those blood vessels, it starts to get scarring. It starts to damage those blood vessels. And when those blood vessels get damaged, the body has to repair it and fix itself. Remember, everything that happens in the body's always trying to fix itself. It's always trying to be healthy. It's always trying to normalize. Okay? So if you get buildup in your arteries, that's because you've damaged your arteries by making your heart work too hard. And the reason they attribute, and we'll talk when we get more into cholesterol, the reason they attribute cholesterol to heart disease is because when they do an operation, they see cholesterol. The reason that cholesterol there is it's actually saving your life. It's actually plugging up those holes that are created from your heart having to work too hard and stretch out your veins and arteries. Okay? But cholesterol in itself is never the cause of heart disease. So, here's the plan on taking care of the heart and not having high blood pressure. Number one, water. Okay, so water and minerals. The main two important minerals you need for heart health are magnesium, and I'll just say three. Magnesium, calcium, and zinc. Okay? Most people, calcium isn't an issue. Most people, in fact, have too much calcium floating through their bloodstream, and calcium is constricting. Okay? So the magnesium offsets that. The best thing I think anybody can take for protection of their heart, one of the two best things, is magnesium. Okay? If doctors recommended people just to take magnesium, even if people ate garbage, you would probably cut the heart attacks in half in this country, just taking magnesium, because it's a vasodilator. It dilates the blood vessels. And when you dilate the blood vessels, even if your arteries are blocked, at least you can get some blood through there. And it takes the burden off the heart to have to function and pump extra hard. So magnesium, definitely a great thing to take. But you need all your trace minerals. You need all your electrolyte minerals. And mineral deficiencies, again, is, let's look at the examples recently. Okay, those kids that died on the basketball court. Okay, how can a healthy kid, how can an athlete that doesn't have any blockages in his artery just drop dead of a heart attack? It's mineral deficiencies. Dr. Wallach proved that through his autopsies. That those people who have those sudden deaths like that, it's a mineral deficiency. So, getting trace minerals in your water is key, and being properly hydrated is key. It's key to everything, but especially when it comes to heart health and cardiovascular health. You got to keep the river flowing. You got to keep that blood moving and that blood flowing. And if you think about some of the common blood pressure medications, if anybody's been on blood pressure medications or know people on blood pressure medications, first of all, a lot of times the doctors don't know or don't even take the time to figure out what's causing your high blood pressure. They'll just give you XYZ medication. If that didn't work, come back, try this one. If that didn't work, come back, try this one. And, oh, that one works. Okay, take that one for the rest of your life. That's kind of the game plan. I know I'm kind of dumbing that down a little bit, but that's kind of what they do. One of the common ones they give people is calcium channel blockers. Okay, remember I mentioned calcium is constricting. Okay, so all you need to offset that is magnesium. You don't need a drug. But the reason you need a calcium channel blocker is because you're acidic, your blood's thick, and it's causing your blood vessels to constrict, that excess calcium in your bloodstream. It's probably pulling it from your bones. That's why so many people are getting osteoporosis. But because all that extra calcium shouldn't be in your bloodstream. So they give you calcium channel blockers to block that calcium, but magnesium will serve the exact same function. So again, it depends on what type of blood pressure medication you're on, but it doesn't matter. I mean, all blood pressure medications are easy to get off of. Because again, there's only those main three reasons that people have high blood pressure. If you address those things, it's gone. I guess the one I didn't put on there, that I probably could put on there, is stress. Your stress has to be really, really bad, like all day, every day, for it to be the cause of your high blood pressure. And usually when people are really stressed out, the rest of the body's kind of shutting down. That's what happens when the whole fight or flight response. You're stressed out, the rest of your body just kind of starts to shut down. So that can, cause it to be worse. Yeah?
Can there be, medicinally induced different things that over a period of time also pull down your heart?
Say that again?
Drugs.
Yes.
Just different strips over.
Like the side effects?
Yeah. Well, that can mess with your heart eventually. I mean, that one kid on, I don't know, high school just stuff with different kids and athletes and steroids and I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I mean, those...
You hear about that, but then there's all these people that run around their athletes like forever and, oh yeah, they did steroids their whole career. It's just confusing to me.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's up to you if you want to take that risk or not,
No, I don't, but I just...
No, I'm just saying for other people though, not you specifically, but just for anyone.
I'm gonna get it.
I mean, some people are okay doing that, you know what I mean? So.
Well, I don't know, it's just something personal. Never mind.
Okay.
Not me, but, suddenly dilated.
Okay. From a heart problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in his 30s.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sad because it shouldn't happen.
No, exactly.
Exercise, obvious. You know, we know the body was meant to move. Yes.
On the minerals, should it take care of the problem where the blood pressure is too high lying down and too low standing up?
That's usually from adrenal fatigue. So minerals will help with that too. But it's because the adrenal glands aren't working. Yeah. If you have high blood pressure when you're laying down, but as soon as you stand up, your blood pressure drops low, and a lot of times you'll get dizzy and things like that. Yeah, that's adrenal fatigue. Yeah, but minerals will help with that. But that's focusing in on the adrenals, which actually that's what the class is on next Thursday. So we'll talk about that.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about any of this, but I've always heard potassium for the heart. Is that not?
Yes. Potassium is very important too. It's one of the main electrolyte minerals. So yeah, technically I could have put that on here too.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The reason potassium is so important is because people have too much salt in their diets. Okay, and we know excess sodium consumption can raise blood pressure too. So yeah, I didn't put that one on here. I'm glad you mentioned it. So it's another reason you can have high blood pressure is way too much processed salt. Again, that wasn't a problem pre-1900. In fact, since you mentioned it, heart disease and heart problems in general wasn't even a problem before 1900. It wasn't even one of the main things in medicine that they talked about. It wasn't one of the main diseases. It wasn't one of the main illnesses. That is a product of an industrialized nation. Okay, but because now we have so much processed salt in our diet, that same thing that can raise the blood pressure, and the potassium offsets that. I worked with a Chinese doctor in Vegas, and everybody who had high blood pressure, he'd say, take potassium, take potassium, take potassium, because that's what antagonizes. You know, like magnesium antagonizes the calcium that causes constriction. The potassium offsets the salt. Okay, and another interesting note on that is in nature and in foods. If you ate a traditional fruits and vegetables and whole grain, good quality fresh food diet, you'd never ever in a million years eat too much salt. Never ever ever. Salt's very hard to find in nature. When you put a salt lick out in the woods or in a pasture, those animals are all over that because they don't get salt. They don't get a lot of salt in their diets. Okay, we're the opposite. We eat way too much salt, so the potassium offsets that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so exercise. The body was meant to move. You got to keep the blood flowing. You got to keep the river of life moving. That's just a no-brainer. I always tell people not to underestimate the power of walking. Everybody thinks they have to do all these crazy, intense exercise programs and weightlifting and join a gym and all that kind of stuff. I hope I'm not to. Hope anybody here doesn't walk on a treadmill every day. But I always jokingly say that if you go to the gym and you walk on a treadmill all day every day, then you're not really going anywhere, ever. But if you go walk outside, you're actually going somewhere. You're accomplishing something. So I much prefer walking outside in nature. But walking's a great, great, great exercise. So don't underestimate the power of walking. Again, pre-1900, before we had cars and all this other stuff, humans walked, and humans were thin and healthy. So walking, that's all you need. But there's a lot of great exercise. I'm a big fan of the Cellerciser, the rebounding, yoga. There's all kinds of great things you can do. But if nothing else, walk.
Well, why not the treadmill?
Just because you're inside and you're not getting fresh air and you don't have to work as many muscles when you're on the treadmill. There's just so many more benefits to walking outside. Third step is...
I'd say it's also better for your brain if you're walking on uneven surfaces.
And your feet.
Yep, helps your balance more. Everything.
Yeah, but there's things in your brain that they said one of the reasons the kids are getting so crazy is because they always are on a flat surface.
Mm-hmm.
Where they used to be outside running up and down hills.
That makes sense, yeah.
And there's things in your brain like inner ears and all that
Sure.
need balance.
Yep, that makes a lot of
And
sense.
your kid's getting crazy, go have them run up and down a hill,
Hmm.
not a flat surface.
Run up and down until you get tired, you know
Yeah.
what they used to say?
Or even
My
if
parents
it's
always
like,
told
if
me.
you've got
Run
a,
around circles.
Run up, yeah, run around a circle so you fall down. Yeah.
if you've got a street with a curb, you know how sometimes kids will play and they'll walk on the
Mhm.
curb?
Mhm.
Even just that,
Hmm. Yep.
Wow.
on a curb. So
Yeah,
you're
that's why the
kind of-
guy who invented the cellar sizer is so big on the cellar sizer, is because it challenges you. It challenges your balance. It challenges, you know, your body's always having to move and adjust to trying to balance on that little rebounder. So yeah, same concept. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that. So eating right, it's the only reason we have heart disease, because we don't eat right. I mean, that's as simple as that. You know, again, pre-1900, this wasn't a problem. In other cultures around the world, for the most part, it's still not a problem. It's only a problem in industrialized nations. It's a problem here, it's a problem in Europe, it's a problem in Australia. Other than that, the rest of the world doesn't have too much of a problem with this. So it is a fork problem more than anything else. So, you know, again, you don't have to stop eating meat. You don't have to stop eating dairy. Number one, make more intelligent choices. You know, get it from fresh, quality, organic, humanely raised sources. And, you know, cut back on the amount. You know, Americans are just over-consumers. It's simple as that. When we eat more food than the body can process, it makes our blood thick, blocks our colon. I mean, all kinds of things start to get backed up. Puts pressure on the heart, puts pressure on all the organs. So, herbs. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of great herbs for blood pressure. I just mentioned a few of them. Jogulin is known as the immortality herb in China. It's one of my favorite herbs. It's been studied extensively for its heart normalizing effects. It lowers blood pressure, it lowers cholesterol, it strengthens the heart. It helps the heart to pump and beat more efficiently. A lot of athletes take Jogulin for that reason. And it is an amazingly wonderful tasting tea. If you've ever, has anyone here had Jogulin? I know my dad has.
Do you like it?
It's a really, really good tasting tea too. So that's a great tea to drink. You know, I'm a big fan of learning about herbs. We'll do some herb classes the next couple of months, but I'm a big fan about learning about herbs because they're great things to have in your arsenal. And just, you know, for a month, I'm going to drink Jogulin tea, and the next month I'm going to do something different. You know, it's just great things to put in your body. Yeah.
A little humor story. PMS hit me hard yesterday. So I had crying. I yelled at my husband. I yelled at my daughter, and I had gotten some PMS tea from the health food store.
Yeah.
I drank it all day today. I feel great.
And
Okay, honey,
Nice.
I drank my PMS tea, and we're good today.
then your husband went out and bought like 10 boxes, right? That's funny. Okay, so the second,
I've always heard that, going back to eating, that
Mhm.
when people eat a hot, fat, a meal is like real fatty,
mhm.
that's probably when they'll have a heart attack.
Well, it thickens the blood.
Exercise and after eating a fat
Yeah,
diet.
deep fat fried, too much meat, too many fat fried foods. Yeah, it thickens the blood. And when you eat that 3 meals a day, when you eat that constantly, you eat bacon for breakfast and a turkey sandwich for lunch and a steak and potatoes for dinner, you know, your body can only process so much at one time. So again, it sits in the body, it thickens, it stagnates. Okay, so just cut back on the portions, you know, and make better. Doesn't mean you have to become a vegetarian overnight, but make better choices.
But the other thing, you know, going back to the exercise thing, I've heard also that people, after they exercise, that that's more likely when they'll have a heart attack.
Minerals. Minerals, 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 minerals. That's why athletes take electrolyte minerals. That's why you have to have minerals in your body, because when you exercise, you use a lot of minerals. When you sweat, you lose a lot of minerals. You have to have minerals in your body. That's why these young kids that are healthy are dropping dead, because they don't have minerals in their body.
Well, the idea, what I was going to say was that, you know, it creates too many free radicals, and therefore the lumen of the blood vessel gets irritated and inflamed, and they don't have enough antioxidants to combat.
I've heard that too. Yeah,
What do you think of that?
I've heard that too. I mean, but again, minerals will solve that problem. Minerals are your best antioxidant. So, you know, the astaxanthin, you know, people have taken that, the red algae, that's a really potent antioxidant. But minerals is the key. But I have heard of that, what you're talking about. So other herbs, Okay, so if there were two things I was would take every day to protect my heart, if I had any inkling of an idea, heart disease in my family, whatever your rationale, magnesium and cayenne pepper. Okay, Dr. Christopher, who is an awesome herbalist out in Utah, still has a line of products, Christopher's. He never lost a patient using cayenne pepper. He worked with a lot of heart patients. He witnessed people have heart attacks, gave them cayenne pepper, never ever once had anyone die. When I worked at Stay Healthy in Las Vegas, there's a guy who worked there, Jeff, and there was a guy who had a heart attack right in the aisle, and Jeff grabbed a tincture of cayenne pepper, squirted it in his mouth. The guy came to, got up on his feet, the ambulance arrived, and the guy said, "I'm fine."
Oh my gosh.
Went home. Saved him a $20,000 medical bill. Cayenne pepper. It's another story. It was in Utah actually also. A guy cut his arm real bad with a saw or something, like almost cut his arm off. And his friend had heard about cayenne pepper. His friend went in the house and took the powder, cayenne pepper powder, and put it all over his arm. It doesn't sting as much as you think it would. But what it does is it cauterizes the wound. The paramedics showed up and they said, "I can't believe you did that. This guy's going to lose his arm." They were really upset about it. Ran him to the hospital, called the guy later, said, "Hey, we apologize. We're just letting you know if you wouldn't have put that cayenne pepper on his arm, he would have lost it." And ever since then, the paramedics carried cayenne pepper with them on their emergency calls. That's one thing you want in your herbal first aid kit, cayenne pepper. It'll stop an open wound immediately, and it'll save anyone from a heart attack or stroke. So, good stuff. Garlic, ginger, they're natural blood thinners, anticoagulants. They keep blood platelets from sticking together. Good for circulation, good for blood flow. And you don't always try to tell people you don't have to look at these things as supplements. Like you don't have to buy ginger capsules and take ginger capsules. Make it a part of your life. Make it a part of your food. Juice them, throw them in salads, cook with them. Just make them a part of your daily life. Hawthorn, astragalus, medicinal mushrooms, I'm a big fan of, great for the heart. And then vitamin C. I talk number 6, minerals. I mentioned magnesium, but I'll just talk about a couple of other things real quick. Vitamin C and silica are both critically important because they maintain the strength and integrity of your blood vessels. People have heard of scurvy, right? We don't get scurvy anymore, right? But we used to. You know the whole story of vitamin C and scurvy and all that? Anybody heard that story? Just one? I'll tell you real quick. It's pretty cool. Vitamin C was discovered a long time ago. The Native Americans knew that pine needles were really high in vitamin C. And we had some explorers come over early in the ship, on their ships in the 1600s or whatever, and half the people on the boat got scurvy, and they were dying of scurvy. They had no idea what caused scurvy or what it came from. You know what scurvy is?
Gums bleed or something?
Yeah, your blood vessels they weaken and they degenerate. And the blood vessels weaken so much they start to leak blood out of your blood vessels. So you'll have bleeding gums, and you just start, your nose will start bleeding. Just all your veins and arteries get weak. So all these people are dying of scurvy, and the Native Americans said, "Hey man, just take some of these pine needles and throw them in some hot water and drink the tea." Boom, scurvy was gone. So this is kind of like a good story based on conventional medicine today. It's kind of accurate because these explorers took this information back to England and said, "Hey, we got a cure for scurvy. It's pine needles." They said, "That's stupid. Are you crazy? Why would pine needles cure scurvy?" So they totally ignored them. So after a few more thousand people died, they discovered that limes also cured scurvy because limes are also high in vitamin C. So then they started giving people limes, lots of limes on the voyage with them, and nobody got scurvy anymore. And that's where the term limeys come from, if you ever heard of limeys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where that term. So it's an interesting story that, they had an answer, they brought it back, they ignored it for another 100 years, let thousands more people die. It's kind of what our medical system does today. Yeah, I know. So, yeah, the first FDA, yeah.
Oh.
So, So vitamin C, yeah. So strength and integrity of your veins and arteries. You know, we don't want scurvy. We don't see scurvy today, but people's veins and arteries do get weak. I mean, you see people with spider veins and leg veins, and people that bruise really easy and things like that. You know, it's really important to strengthen your veins and arteries. And vitamin C is critical for that. The highest sources of vitamin C in the world are camu berries, amla berries, and acerola cherry, which I have all of them in bulk in the store. I just got a 4-to-1 acerola cherry concentrate, which I'm really excited about. So you just got some.
Smells like brown sugar.
It smells like brown sugar. There you go.
Can you acerola cherry trees grow around here?
No, they're tropical. When I was in Hawaii, I went to a plantation and they had acerola cherry trees, and I was picking them off the tree and eating them, and they're like, they make you pucker because they're tart. They're really high, so they're so high in vitamin C. They're good, but yeah, they don't grow here. So vitamin C sources, and then just to finish off, you know, kind of vitamin and mineral thing, silica. Same thing. Silica is very important for the strength and integrity of your blood vessels, veins, arteries, also your bones, joints, ligaments, tendons, muscle, all your tissues, silica. The reason that the Asians never seem to age is they put silica in everything. It's bamboo. They put bamboo in all their soups and stews and things like that, and their skin always looks really good. It doesn't wrinkle. That's silica. It maintains the strength of your skin. Yeah, and I have horsetail. You can drink horsetail tea. Horsetail is the stuff growing. It grows all over around here. Horsetail is the stuff that grows by a wet area, like a swampy, marshy area, and it kind of looks like it has little sections on it. You can kind of break them apart. Everybody know what I'm talking about? But it's really rigid and it grows straight up. It's green and kind of got little black rings around it. It grows straight up.
Comes apart in sections when you pull on it.
Yeah.
Does it look a little bit like cane?
Yeah, just thinner. It's really thin, yeah. But that's really high in silica, and that's why it's thin around as a straw, but it grows straight up, and that's because of bamboo. If you've ever seen, how strong bamboo is. That stuff is like rock, and that's because of the silica content. So same thing, very good for strengthening our veins and arteries as well. So another great preventative to keep your veins and arteries strong. So again, even if you're putting a little extra burden on your heart because you're not eating perfect and you're not exercising or whatever, if you have strong integrity in your veins and arteries with doing lots of vitamin C and horsetail and some of these herbs that strengthen your veins and arteries, you're not going to get that arterial damage. That's very important.
Can you, like you said, make tea out of that, right? Can you mix these things like that and then jug one or even other stuff together in a tea?
Yeah, you totally can. There's nothing wrong with mixing those things together. Just, again, the acerola cherry is so tart, I probably wouldn't mix that with anything. Just probably put that in water and drink it,
Yeah.
But like jogulin and horsetail, yeah, you can totally mix that.
Okay. Yeah, and shilajit with it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then enzymes. Man, enzymes are powerful. The only drawback to them is they're kind of expensive, but man, the benefits are ridiculous, especially when it comes to heart health. I've had so many stories already, just in the short time I've been open here, of all the people that have benefited from enzymes. I just had a guy, like 3 days ago. He said, I have high blood pressure, and I've taken all kinds of other stuff, and da-da-da. I'm like, hey, have you ever tried the enzymes? And he's got the blood pressure thing, he checks it himself at home. He doesn't have medication, he's just trying to manage it himself. And he took those enzymes, and after 3 days, he's like, man, my blood pressure's perfect. Those enzymes, what they do, if you saw one of the things I mentioned, the scar tissue, the fibrin buildup, the enzymes are like Pac-Man. They go through there and they gobble up all the excess fibrin, all that excess fat and protein and stuff that's floating through your blood vessels that your body hasn't been able to process and eliminate. So it'll totally clean up your blood. The enzymes are amazing at that. Tons of other benefits to enzymes too. It'll keep you from getting sick. It destroys viruses and bacteria. It helps clean out your colon, makes you regular. It cleans up mucus out of the body. I mean, tons and tons of benefit to enzymes. But specific to this, specific to heart health, it's really the best thing if you have a blockage in your artery. My uncle had a 70% blockage in his artery. Most of you have heard me told this story, but 70% blockage in his artery. Took the enzymes for 3 months, even though I told him to take them for 6 months. Took the enzymes for 3 months, went back to the doctor, had a 0% blockage.
Wow.
And he said his doctor's exact words, you have the blood of a teenager. So it cleans up the blood. Awesome. Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with enzymes. Is that something that we need to get through supplementation?
Yeah, if you want to do a medicinal dose of it, like to clean up the veins and arteries, to clean out a blockage, something like that, absolutely. You need to take a medicinal amount from a capsule. But all living foods contain enzymes. So that's why it's important to eat raw foods and eat salads and eat foods that are raw. As soon as you cook them, it destroys those enzymes. And enzymes decrease as we age. When we're really young, we have tons of enzymes in the body. That's also what repairs our body. So when we're really young, we fall down, we don't care, we get hurt, we heal in 5 seconds. We don't even think about it. As we get older, our enzymes decrease. We start to heal slower. Enzymes is one of the main reasons for that.
Okay, but I did hear you say that though, besides doing mostly raw food diet, if you're trying to heal this, you should do your supplement.
Yeah, it's enzymes. It's called nepronol. Yeah, if you're trying to clean up something and you know you have damage, in your heart or in your cardiovascular system, just switching to eating raw foods is not going to fix that right away. The enzymes will fix that very quickly. I mean, switching to raw foods, of course, will help, but. And then the last one I put is just decreased stress levels. Again, stress antagonizes everything just because it causes the rest of your body to shut down. So, breathing techniques, holy basil is my favorite herb, grounding pads, all that stuff works. Okay, any questions about high blood pressure? Okay, cholesterol. Cholesterol has a lot of functions, critically important for the body. This one kind of gets me fired up because cholesterol medications, I think, are the single most worthless medication on the market. Doctors know that they're worthless. All the studies have been done showing they've been worthless. There's over 900 published studies showing that cholesterol medications do nothing to protect your heart health. They're all published studies. They're all in medical journals. They know this, but they push it anyway. They keep changing the quote-unquote safe cholesterol levels to save more medication, to sell more medication, and it's outrageous. I'm going to tell you how cholesterol medication is a double negative. Okay? So the first thing to understand about cholesterol is that your body produces it every single day. Okay? Your liver produces cholesterol. Your liver produces all the cholesterol you need. Okay, so you don't need to get extra cholesterol from food sources, which you really don't get a lot of cholesterol from food sources unless you're eating meat like 3 times a day. You're like going nuts. But your liver produces cholesterol because it's a life-saving substance. You cannot live without cholesterol. That's why as soon as people get on cholesterol medications, they see major side effects. Read the side effect list on that one. Crazy. It actually increases your risk for heart attack. Yeah, and it even says right on the label, may not prevent heart attack. Okay, what's the point of taking it? People don't read. So, cholesterol, you don't produce hormones without cholesterol. You don't produce any sex hormones without cholesterol. Okay, cholesterol is important for muscle function. It is important for the strength and integrity of your veins, arteries, capillaries, all your blood vessels in your body. It is what synthesizes the vitamin D on your skin when you get sunshine. Okay, you can't do any of these things without cholesterol. Critically important for the brain. The brain needs lots of cholesterol. Okay, so if you look at the side effects of cholesterol medications, basically you see all the functions that you're shutting down by taking cholesterol medications. It's really as simple as that. So the way cholesterol medication works is it stops the enzyme in the liver that helps the liver to produce cholesterol. So it stops your natural production of cholesterol. That's how cholesterol medications work. Okay? Well, you don't have high cholesterol because your liver produces cholesterol every day. You have high cholesterol because you're eating meat 3 meals a day, or you're eating, fat, fried, greasy, fast food 3 meals a day, or your liver's not working anymore. Okay? Your liver filters all that excess cholesterol. So if you have an issue in the liver gallbladder area, you got lots of gallstones maybe, or liver stones blocking up that area, your cholesterol will start to back up in your system, and that cholesterol will be free floating through your system, which again, it's not necessarily a dangerous thing. Okay? Eskimos have cholesterol in the 400s. They eat whale blubber and like seal all day. They don't have heart disease. Islanders eat 60 80, 100 grams of saturated fat every day in coconuts. They don't have heart disease. So cholesterol is not an indicator for heart disease, but they claim it to be so they can sell lots of drugs, even though all the studies show the opposite. Okay, so it's completely unnecessary. So what happens is people have high cholesterol again because of the meat consumption, the liver not working. You got a lot of stones, you got a blockage, something else going on. So they give you a medication. It stops the production of the life-saving cholesterol and does nothing to address your eating problem or your poor liver function. So it's like a double negative. So that's what happens with most drugs is it stops the symptom, but the disease process continues. And that's one of the main things we find with these pharmaceutical drugs. Stops the symptom, does nothing to stop the disease process. I'll just throw one example out there for you, diabetes. Okay, taking insulin does not stop the disease process. It manages your blood sugar levels. Okay, so on a chart you can say, oh, my blood sugar is normal. The disease process continues. You still lose your eyesight, you still lose your legs, you still get neuropathy, you still have high blood pressure, you still get everything else. You'll see that with any diabetic who's on metformin and insulin. The disease process does not stop. So,
I got a quick question.
yeah.
Okay, you probably already said this, but just to help me assimilate it. Tell me again the difference between the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol.
Okay, there's no such
Because
thing.
that's what we always hear, the HDL
Yeah.
and the LDL.
Yeah, there's no such thing. The only reason they call it good cholesterol and bad cholesterol is because one brings fat and nutrients to the cells, and one takes the fat away. So they call the
Low density.
LDL
Is the bad.
the bad because it brings the nutrients to the cells. Okay, it brings the fat to the cells, but it says the HDL is good because it carries it away. Okay, but that's actually silly. I mean, there's no really such thing. Okay, I'm not explaining it very well. Bottom line is that's not that important. So like I said, your liver produces enough cholesterol it needs every day for all the important functions that cholesterol does. Cholesterol is not an indication for heart disease.
So the numbers they make up.
So the numbers don't matter. The numbers don't mean anything.
They're real, it just doesn't matter.
Right.
FHC
Right.
on LDL,
Yeah.
it's real. It just
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
It's not important. Now, if you have super low cholesterol levels, that's not safe either, because something's not right. Your body's not producing enough cholesterol. That can actually increase your risk for heart disease. There was a doctor, I just was reading an article before class started that he did some study and he showed that people that have cholesterol levels under 150 were more prone to heart attacks because they were like cutting all the fats out of their diet. They weren't eating avocados or coconut or they were going low-fat diet, and their body wasn't able to produce hormones. They weren't giving the fats that the liver needs to produce cholesterol. You need those good fats to produce the healthy cholesterol. So, yeah, you don't want to go low-fat, no-fat diet either. But yeah, in my opinion, those numbers aren't important. Okay? You don't look convinced.
Well, I'm a little confused because, I mean, it's just like, beat in our heads about our cholesterol numbers, and they should be like in the 200s, right? Is that what they should be? And the HDL is so important, and the LDL is so important, and I do understand that a high meat, high fat, saturated diet, that's not good, and just don't do it, but then they prescribe cholesterol medication to people who have, I'm thinking mainly my parents, that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Because they're the ones that are going to the doctor and managing the blood pressure, managing their cholesterol, and...
It's a numbers game. It's a drug game. It's to keep them on drugs. Like I said, there's 900 published studies that show cholesterol medications, do not do what they say they do.
And severely damages the liver.
And all drugs damage the liver. Okay, maybe this will help. Cholesterol is not an indicator for heart disease. Okay, they think it is, or at least they justify it by saying, hey, when we cut somebody open, when they have a blocked artery, I see cholesterol there. So remember I kind of explained what happens. The heart has to work too hard. It stretches out the artery. It's repairing. It's actually saving your life. Because if the cholesterol didn't deposit there, you'd rip holes through your veins and arteries and you'd bleed out. You'd have internal bleeding. Okay, so it's saving your life. Okay, so that's why they say, hey, cholesterol is an indicator for heart disease. It's been disproven over and over and over and over and over and over again since the 70s. Okay, this has been totally disproven. one of the easiest ways maybe to understand, at least what helps me to understand it, is that if cholesterol in and of itself was a cause of cardiovascular disease, okay, those fat molecules, that cholesterol, is floating through the whole body, right? You have blood circulating throughout your whole body. How come the heart attack, the damage, only happens right at the heart? That's a question they can't answer. Because the fact of the matter, if cholesterol caused heart disease, okay, you should have cholesterol buildup in your ankles and in your elbows and in your neck and around your midsection, because you have blood and fat circulating through your blood in all those different areas. So why does it never cause a blockage anywhere else? It only causes a blockage where there's damage being done to the heart and it's depositing to save your life. So in other words, what's most important is that your heart's functioning properly, you don't have damage to your veins and arteries, and you're circulating properly. Again, you can be an Eskimo, your veins and arteries are clean and clear and healthy, and eat fat and blubber all day, and have cholesterol in the 400s, and never, ever, ever get heart disease. Eskimos don't get heart disease. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not an indicator for heart
So
disease.
if somebody came to you and said, my doctor prescribed me this cholesterol medication, what would you tell them to take? Is that what you just have been telling us?
Okay, let's.
I don't want to go full circle on you.
No.
Maybe we need to have a private conversation so I don't get you off track.
Let's go to that. There's some more information in here you can read, how cholesterol, how important it is for the brain. I did put a little, oh, here it is. I mean, it says it right in here. I didn't even know I had it in here.
Okay.
If cholesterol were the culprit, this ubiquitous substance would clog up our entire 100,000 miles of adult veins, arteries, and capillaries. Instead, heart disease is caused by the narrowing of the spaghetti-sized coronary arteries. So, this observation alone renders the cholesterol theory of heart disease obsolete. Again, this is something we've known for 40 years. And then here's the study. The University of Maryland Medical Center conducted a study of 56 heart patients who were taking aspirin therapy. 14 of these had excessive platelet aggregation, clumping. That's 25%. And then it says the over 900 studies have been done showing ineffectiveness and dangers of cholesterol medications. I can send you tons of articles on that by people that have written books on the science behind how cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease. Then I list all the side effects and the drugs, and then maybe to answer your last question, I give just 1, 3, 4. Okay, that's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, but lowering cholesterol levels is really super easy. We watched a movie called Eating, where they talked a lot about excessive meat consumption, and they had a lot of people just stop eating meat or drastically reduce their meat intake, and their cholesterol dropped below 200 within a month. Just getting all that excess meat out of the body, out of the bloodstream. So 1, reduce meat intake and bad fats. So that's going to be all your trans fatty acids, your deep fat fried food, your hydrogenated oils or partially hydrogenated oils. Did I have another typo in there?
No, you actually said cholesterol. It said you'll have to wrestle with this because it's what the doctors promote. The medical companies and the doctors promote that cholesterol is what does it.
Right, and that's why I give those 10 questions on the last page. So ask your doctor these things.
Is it possible that part of it is that for a lot of people, the reason their cholesterol level's high is because they're eating horrible?
Right.
Which then, if you're eating horrible, your chances are higher that you'll have a heart attack.
Right.
So could that be the correlation partly is that, if you got high cholesterol, good chance you're eating bad.
Right.
And so there's a good chance of heart attack.
So you're saying like that's how they justify giving people the drugs?
No, I'm saying just clean up your diet.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. But I think that's also
the answer for everything.
But I think that's also how the doctors justify giving the people the drugs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people don't understand what that's doing to their body.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing is what they look at is triglycerides.
Right.
If you're eating high fatty foods, it's not the cholesterol. Yeah, it'll be bumped up. What it is the triglycerides. That's what's dangerous. That's what's eating the fatty steaks, and that's what turns your blood thick.
Right.
And
Right.
Fatty.
Mhm.
It's not, the cholesterol is kind of,
Yeah.
integrated that into.
Yeah,
the
it's not a
system.
dangerous substance,
Right.
cholesterol, bottom line,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's more, yeah.
Right, it's-
That's a good point, yeah,
Triglyceride is actually.
That's fat.
the fat.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, doesn't sugar, have you said that sugar, eating a large amount of sugar will increase your
Yes,
triglycerides?
yeah, because it'll increase your insulin,
Right.
and then your insulin becomes resistant, and then it's stuck in your bloodstream. Yep.
And if your blood sugar level's high, is too high, then they actually can't measure the triglycerides in your body. I know that, and they've done that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From experience?
I was gonna say, you actually need me to be like your poster child. Well, one of the things you is on here, but you didn't really mention. I had see, I've also had a heart attack, and I'm diabetic, and I have a stent, and I had high blood pressure, and it just flared up. But about 6 years ago or so, I started having like tremors, and that I got to the point that I couldn't even walk. I was using a wheelchair, and doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. They even kept sending me to psychiatrists saying, well, it had to be mental.
Wow.
And I had friends, and I also were on the internet in the meantime, like, looking for like side effects of the medicine I was on. And what kept coming up was cholesterol medicine. And guess what happened when I stopped my cholesterol medicine?
You got better.
It took a while, but
Right.
eventually went away.
Yeah.
And then, and then a couple of years later, the doctor's like, you really need to do that, you really need to do that. And within 2 weeks, it was starting again.
Wow.
And
So you knew.
So
even the tremors were being caused by that? Is that what you're saying too?
let's put it this way. The doctors couldn't figure out what was going on.
Right.
I had a doctor at KU yell at me, tell me that no, I had to be crazy. I mean, the doctor literally screamed at me that I had to be crazy, that it wasn't anything physical. But once I stopped the medicine, and it took a while, I mean, it didn't happen immediately. It had to work out of my system, but it went away.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of dangerous
And,
side
and the
effects to
doctor
those statin
can't
drugs.
imagine now why, even though my cholesterol's high, why I won't take the medicine.
Mhm.
I'm like, gee.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
they'll say that your cholesterol is high to use exercise to lower it down.
Sure.
Yeah, and I do notice now on TV, if you listen to the ads, that's one thing they may say is muscle weakness and
Right.
that. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I get to the point.
Because it takes all the CoQ10 out of your body, cholesterol medications does. So that's one thing you might want to supplement with if you're on it. But
We're all unique individuals too, and they've made a bottom line, this is how everybody should be.
right.
At 200, between 200.
Oh, right.
And that doesn't, for whatever reason, she's producing higher cholesterol for a healing process or something, I can only imagine, with
Yeah.
the Eskimos.
Or it could be something going on with the liver, like I said.
Right,
Who knows?
right.
Yeah.
So what is the range of cholesterol?
It's 150.
Yeah, if you're in the 150 to 200 range, you're totally fine. Honestly, if you're up 200 to 250, I think you're totally fine. I mean, I wouldn't even think about it unless it was well over 300.
See, I was just told that mine is 212.
Yeah.
And that it's high.
No, it's
Perfect.
fine.
And I'm going
It's
like-
perfect. It's perfect.
I know that it's been 182 years ago.
Don't worry about it. It's not worth worrying about it, man. We got enough to worry about. It's not worth worrying about. So, to reduce your cholesterol levels, pretty simple. Cut back on, all the super bad fatty stuff. Cut back on excessive meat intake, and avoid just a lot of those vegetable oils, corn oil and canola oil and soy oil and deep fat fried foods and trans fatty acids, all that fun stuff. Second step, which I actually put 3, but it's number 2, fix your liver. Your liver produces all the cholesterol you need.
Where are you at now?
I'm on lowering cholesterol levels. I think it's on page something.
4? Okay.
So, liver cleansing, liver gallbladder flushes, anything that blocks and stagnates your liver. Very important. We did a class on the liver a couple weeks ago. It serves a lot of functions, but one thing it does is it will filter all excess fats out of the system unless it's not working properly. Then the third thing, supplement. a number, again, the systemic enzymes, they'll gobble up all that excess fat and junk floating through the bloodstream. That's why so many people notice benefits, not just cardiovascular health, but with autoimmune conditions where there's stuff floating through the bloodstream, the body's attacking itself, the immune system's getting ramped up and attacking stuff in the bloodstream. The enzymes gobble all that stuff up. But it's really good at gobbling up all the fat, all the excess protein. That's what systemic enzymes are. They're protease, proteolytic enzymes. Protease as in protein-eating enzymes. So all that excess protein, fibrin, all that stuff, it'll gobble up that stuff in the bloodstream.
Do you need to take those on an empty stomach?
Systemic enzymes you do.
Yeah.
Because if you take them with food, it's going to work on the food first, and then you're going to get what's left over.
Mm-hmm.
Best to do them on an empty stomach so it goes right into the bloodstream and starts working. And then, again, minerals, increase your mineral intake. And then there's some herbs. Amla is the one I've seen the most studies done on. Amla alone just lowering cholesterol levels. Amla, maybe because of the vitamin C content, I don't know, but amla is one of the highest known sources of vitamin C in the world, and it's extensively been studied, shown to reduce cholesterol levels. Google.
What are you saying?
Sounds like omelet.
Amla.
You say omelet.
Oh, there.
Omelets,
That's
yeah.
Omelets, and I'm like.
They're like, yes! Bingo!
Leave out the bacon.
So amla, Google, cayenne pepper, garlic. Fiber keeps cholesterol levels out because the fiber, keeping the colon flushed out, removes a lot of that excess cholesterol from the body as well. And then I give a whole sheet on aspirin therapy, the dangers of aspirin, because we pop aspirin like candy, and that's very dangerous. The reason I include that is obviously, people that have any kind of cardiovascular issue, the doctor's like, take aspirin. And then 10 questions to ask your doctor, and he'll probably hate you after you ask all these questions.
Yeah, he'll probably yell at you.